We will now look into defining the activities for the schedule and then sequencing them one after the other. Let's get to understand this more. In this video, I'll be showing you a lot of network diagrams and I'll help you understand a lot of tools and techniques like leads, lag, mandatory dependencies, and then distribution dependencies, internal dependencies, external dependencies. And then after that, I'll also be helping you understand finish start relationships, activity network diagrams. So all of this in this video to help you understand how do we define activities and how do we sequence these activities. We will also cover aspects for the PMP examination with respect to agile and hybrid in this video. Let me share my screen and I'll be doing some sort of whiteboarding also in this video with you. Let's go ahead. All right. So define and sequencing activity. So we saw yesterday that when you're trying to build a house, what are the activities you're going to do to build the house, right? And then how do you sequence that? We'll look into more details today. Let's go ahead. Okay, so now how are we coming up with the list of activities? So we're decomposing the work breakdown structure, the work packages which we had into what is the work that we need to do, who will do the work, when will you do the work, how much will it cost to do the work, and should I make or buy? Should I make what I'm doing or should I buy it from outside, right? So all these things are answered when we're trying to kind of list the activities. I'm trying to break down the work breakdown structure. We're going to answer all of these questions, okay? And then we take a decision to go ahead with the schedule plan, right? Now, the work packages are now broken into small activities. Please remember for your PMP examination, when I'm decomposing a work package for an activity, I'm referring to schedule management. When I'm decomposing the work package to a deliverable, I'm referring to the scope management. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, on the exam, they will not refer directly, but see if something is decomposed into work package into a deliverable and is referring to scope. If a work package is decomposed into activity, is referring to schedule management. So this is important. Now, defined activities is broken into smaller activities, which you can see here. Like we are going to look at the small activities. The small activity should be able to estimate. We should be able to schedule it. We should be able to monitor it, control it. Should be able to add some value to the customer. Okay, that's very important. Now, what is needed to define activities? The inputs, what we say, right? So we need the schedule management plan. Okay, now what are we, how are we going to manage the schedule and all those things that we spoke in the previous video. And then we need the scope baseline, right? What exactly is the work which we are going to do, the boundary of the scope? So that includes the project scope statement, the work breakdown structure, and work breakdown dictionary. And then if it is an agile project, we'll have the product backlog or the list of stories for the project. Then after that, we'll have the organizational process assets, OPA, historical information, and templates. So all of these is needed to define the activities. It is always recommended by PMI that the best way to do this define activity is with the team. Okay, so you'll be able to get better, proper estimates, get more clarity, find out dependency easily if you are working with the team on these things. Okay, right. Okay, now what is in different activities? So as I told you, it's a joint activity with the team and the project manager. If it's an agile project, it's the team and the product owner. Okay. Now decomposition of the exam, as I told you, refers to scope is for deliverables, schedule is for activities. Okay. Now for agile projects, the PO does the below. He does the prioritizing of the backlog. He does the sequence of stories based on the release plan. Okay, so based on the release plan, the PO would say what's the best thing that's going to add value to the customer. Give this, let's give this first to them. So he'll prioritize and he'll sequence the stories. The amount of work that can be done in the iteration will be decided by the development team. Remember this. What can be taken in the iteration after the list is given by the PO, the sprint backlog or the iteration backlog is decided by the development team how much they can deliver in that particular iteration. Okay, so it's a joint activity, prioritizing the backlog, sequencing of stories in the for the iterations, all a joint activity. Okay. Now, the another concept we have for agile iteration is the called as rolling wave planning. That is when there is a lot of uncertainty, we will just plan for the immediate phase or the immediate iteration, right? We get detailed stories or something. So we plan for the next phase at the end of the first phase. So you see here, we are trying to plan, if I can use a highlighter. Okay. So we're trying to plan for phase two over here at the end of phase one. Phase three is planned over here, right? At the end of phase two. So that's because we get more clarity. We don't just plan now, do the estimates, have people blocked, and all those things, and later on things change, right? Because there's a lot of uncertainty over there. So this is called as rolling wave planning. Similar to progressive elaboration, where we do a lot of clarification of this group progressively, called backlog refinement that we do, right? So rolling wave planning is like planning as for the next phase at the end of the previous phase. Remember this. Expect some PMP exam questions on this concept, right, of rolling wave planning or on progressive elaboration. You could be tested on these things. These are all very subtle differences between them. So you should be knowing these differences to answer. You can answer many questions of the PMP examination. Okay. For agile, it's more like for the agile iteration. In particular iteration, we do once the first sprint is over, then you think of the next iteration, think about that, and plan that. Okay. Used when too many unknowns are there, plan in detail just before the work starts for the next phase. Okay, so that's about rolling wave planning. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, define activities. We already saw these define activities of building a house. Now, I want to help you understand more of this. Okay, so these are list of activities: planning, roof, wall, cementing, flooring, foundation, plumbing, woodwork, electrical pillars when you're trying to build a house. Now, I want to explain some tools and techniques when defining activities, right? So one is the activity list. That's the list of activities which you saw here. This is the list of activities. Each activity will have particular attributes called activity attributes. Like for example, pillars. What is the dimension of pillars? What is the size of the pillars? What kind of material you want to put in the pillars? Do you want to just have brick pillars? Do you want to have like iron pillars? These are all attributes. Okay. So now we talk about milestone list. So milestone list is nothing but, okay, milestone is like an accomplishment of completing a particular task. Like for example, once foundation is done, first milestone is achieved. Okay, so that's the first milestone we have, right? So we say that foundation is done. So this is the first milestone is achieved. Okay, so foundation is done. The next milestone could be once the roof is completed, you build the roof. So this will be your second milestone, right? And then after that, you have got the third and final milestone over here. So usually these milestones come into existence when we are talking about projects like fixed price projects. Okay, for fixed price projects, we'll use milestones. Okay, like when I was working on a software project, we used to have milestone delivery. Like for example, after kickoff, certain amount is paid. After discovery, certain amount is paid. After building the code, some amount is paid. After going to UAT, some amount is paid. So these are all milestones on the particular schedule, right? We want to recognize the revenue. You don't want everything to come in the end and recognize later. So that's how you do on fixed price projects. Time and material is on a monthly basis, you're getting paid time, right? So milestone itself is not an activity. It does not have any duration. It's not like something that you're going to build. Milestone is just an instance or an event wherein you say something is completed, something is achieved. Okay. So like you see here, you've got like three milestones now: one, two, and three milestones. So this is the tools and technique. Now, next, let's go ahead. So, okay, let me see this. So next we have is task. Let me just erase. So now we have got relationship, precedence diagram, and there's a relationship, right? So finish to start relationship. In finish to start relationship, so there is a mandatory dependency. So there is a mandatory dependency for the successor activity. Okay. So there is a mandatory dependency. So foundation cannot be done unless until planning is done. Finish to start, right? So for example, you can start only successor when this is finished. So like this, you have got like one, foundation is one, pillars is two, walls is three, and roof is four. So all of these four items have got mandatory dependencies, like, and the relationship is called finish to start kind of relationship. Okay, so that's about the relationships over here. Now let's look into the other relationships which you have. Next slide, please. Okay, let me go there. Start, start. So start over here. This relationship I can explain you or help you understand with this particular concept. Okay. Now let's say when you're building the house, so you have got plumbing work as well as cementing work, cementing the walls. Okay. So start. So the moment the plumbing starts, the cementing on the walls can start. Like this is for those walls where there is no plumbing work to be done. Or there could be something like once the plumbing is completed, let's say it's a 2 week activity and cementing walls like a 2 week activity. After 2-3 days of plumbing work, the wall is ready to be cemented. So you'll say, I can start the cementing of walls once the plumbing work is started. Okay, success will start once this is started. So that's the relationship of it. Start. Okay, cementing of walls will not start unless the plumbing is started, because I don't want to again go and break the wall and dig and break it, right? So that's the relationship over here. The start relationship is that. Similarly, the same example I'm using for the another thing, that is finish. Okay, now in finish is like, so the moment the plumbing work finishes, the cementing of wall is also finished. Okay, so for cementing of wall to finish, first what should have finished? Plumbing work should have finished. That's the finish to finish relationship. Okay, so I'm just using the example of the house building so people can relate to it easily. Okay, similarly, you could have work like in software, the moment testing is done, the document is going to complete after that, right? So all these things could be, so these are the relationships that you have. So you can see whichever industry you're working in is the examples. Okay, now let's go to the next one. The next one is the mandatory dependencies. So all these are mandatory dependencies, like as I mentioned to you. So the ones which we have over here, planning for foundation has got mandatory dependencies, planning, pillars have got dependent foundation, walls have got dependencies on pillars, and roofs have got dependencies on walls, right? So all these are mandatory dependencies, means that roof cannot be built or started unless the walls are made. Okay, except in case where the type of pillars want to make the walls, right? Our pillars cannot be put unless until the foundation is made, right? So mandatory dependencies. So the successor activity pillar has a mandatory dependency on the previous activity, the predecessor activity foundation. Okay, that's what this slide says, mandatory. So all these are like tools and techniques of trying to build up the network diagram and trying to sequence the activities, right? We define the list of activities and want to sequence the list of activities. So these are all available over here. These are tools and techniques. Okay, next one, let's go ahead. So discretionary dependencies. Discretionary dependencies like you can do things in parallel. Okay. So it's your electrical work can go in parallel, plumbing can go in parallel, cementing goes. So it's like nothing is kind of stopping. So what was mandatory for this was the roof. So once the roof was built, we could kind of get started off all these things, right? So that's what it says. So description dependencies like it actually helps in fast tracking crashing things, right? You want to reduce the schedule, the duration, so fast tracking things can be done. So things can be done in parallel. Means plumbing is can be done independent of electrical. So except for the same wall or same place where lines are overlapping. Okay, so those things you know done. The cementing of the walls can be done irrespective of this plumbing, electrical. Wherever this is not required for the electrical plumbing, you can do the cementing of the wall. On walls where you need all three of them, then there's a process like 1, 2, 3. Then there's a dependency that comes in. Okay, so then again over here you see here, woodwork can get started off in parallel with flooring. That's one more discretionary dependency I'm showing over here. So woodwork and flooring also have discretionary dependencies. So means one activity is not dependent fully on other activity to complete or get started. Okay, that's what we mean by discretionary dependencies. And that's all these things. Expect a few questions on PMP exam on all these tools and techniques, right? They could put in some questions. So schedule management has got many terms. So remembering these terms is important. That's why I'm going slowly, bring these examples. I'm not saying the activity A, B, C. I'm just giving the entire project, which we had a simple house building project. We're taking off the precedence diagram network, going forward with that. Okay. Okay, now after this, we have one second. Let me erase this. Erase, uh, good. Okay, now let's go ahead and see next one. Next is external dependencies. Now, for the entire project, when you're building up, there could be some external dependencies. What could be that? Let's say, for example, climate and procurement. Let's say, for example, you plan to do the foundation. Okay, so you have planned to do the foundation on particular week. Okay, so that's like say week 2. On week 2 you have got the foundation to be started off. Now you anticipate that in the week 2 there is going to be rain, right? So now there becomes an external dependency on the climate. You cannot start that work. Okay, again the procurement thing. So if the buyer delays in sending things for the wall, the cement wall or something of the tiles or whatever you want to do on the wall, right? If the delay, then again it's external dependencies. So these are dependencies outside the project. External dependencies are the dependencies which are outside the project. Understand that. Okay, then the next one I have got for you all is okay, that should be the internal, I think so. Yes. So next one is the internal dependencies. Internal differences within project, like for example, which are under your control. Let's say, for example, you're working on the project and there's some festival holidays comes in. Okay, so you could tell, okay, fine, 10 people are there. No, I will not let all 10 of you to go. 5 of you need to be working. I'll give you a comp of to work later on. So that's the internal dependency, which is under your control. The project manager's control, the project team's control, right? So these can be managed. So when you're planning to build the entire project schedule, all these things need to be thought about. Mandatory dependencies, discretionary dependencies, internal dependencies, external dependencies, relationship, finish start relationships, finish relationships, start relationships. So all these are very, very important when you're trying to build the project schedule. Okay, let's see the next one. Okay, so now let's try to understand the concept of leads and lags. Okay, now what do you mean by lead? Lead is like advancing an activity. You want to do something little earlier. Okay, the keyword is early. Lead is like early. Okay, so I have given an example over here. So let's say, for example, here we have got the foundation, which is the 3-week activity. The foundation is a 3-week activity. Now you anticipate that there could be some rains that could come. Okay, so forecast says that there will be heavy rains in week 3. Okay, you can start the project a week earlier, the lead of 1 week. So what you want to do, so first 2 weeks planning is done. On the third week the foundation start, but the forecast says there will be 1 week of rain. So what you'll do is you'll do a lead of this. So let's say you'll work faster on the plan, have the plan ready, but you don't miss the deadline, and say at the end of week 2 only. Okay, so week 1 you finish the plan, and week 1 the planning is over, and now comes week 2, right? And start of week 2 you start off this foundation of work. Foundation work is on a week 2, right? So 1 week earlier it comes, and then you put it from foundation, and then you take a week's break because there is a heavy rain going on. That is called lead. You want to advance a particular activity advance because you want to have delay on your project. So that's called lead. Lead time means extra time starting off early, right? Okay, that's about the lead time. Now I'll talk to you about lag. I'll give an example of lag from the project itself, right? Let's say, for example, lag. Lag is, let's say there is a festival holiday in the middle of the project. Okay. Due to festival holiday, there is a delay of 2 weeks after the walls are being built. The roof will be delayed by 2 weeks. That is, let's say after the walls are built, okay, people now have gone on a holiday for 2 weeks. Okay, the people who are building a house, the construction people, workers, so they've gone a 2 week break. So now it will be like 2 weeks plus 3 weeks, 5 weeks plus 2 weeks, 7 weeks plus 2 weeks, 9 weeks. So on the 10th week, the roof was supposed to start. Roof work was supposed to be on 10th week. But now there is a delay. Okay. So there is a delay of 2 more weeks. So adding 2 more weeks. After 9th week, again 10 and 11. Right? So 10 and 11 is over. So on the 12th week is when the actual work is going to start. Okay. So if you add this up, 6 plus 7, 5 plus 4, 9, 9 plus 2, 10. Okay, sorry, 11th week. Yeah, let me just erase that. Okay, so it's not 12. Okay, so I did an ideal scenario on week 10, week 2, week 3, 5, 7, 9, and on week 10, the work was supposed to start, right? So on week 10, the work was supposed to start for the roof building. Okay, so week 10, this was supposed to start. Now, because of the holiday, you're adding 2 more weeks, 10 plus 2, so it will actually start on 12. Okay, 1 week delay we are talking about. Okay, we should say which is actually 1 week was, so it's a 2 week delay. They want for 2 weeks holiday. So the work will start on the week 12. Okay, now this is called as a lag. Lag refers to a delay. Delay in doing something is called as a lag. Okay, so hope that's clear. Okay, let me just quickly go to the next slide. It is this. Probably I should use vanishing ink. Avoid the erasing. Okay, now let's go ahead. So that's about leads and lags. So now we have built a project schedule network diagram. So after the sequencing, right? So how it helps us? It helps us to get the complete view of the project. It helps us in crashing, fast tracking, which we'll learn in the next video. Okay, what is crashing, what is fast tracking. and then it will help us in finding the dependencies, and then critical path, and then the workflow, and justifies the estimate. So these are the benefits of project schedule network diagram. Okay, so that's about it. Now let's talk about for software projects. How do we do? So for software projects, like for example, we have got an agile way of working also, right? Let's say for example, what are the mandatory dependencies? After define, you have got design stage. So after design only you can build something. After build only you can test. After test only you can deploy. So this is the mandatory dependencies we have when building software projects. Now, how is this is done in agile way? Let's see that. So in agile way, what we do is we take an iteration or sprint. We take one particular. Let me put it over here. So we'll take a use case. Okay, use case. Okay, we'll take a use case, and let's say the use case has got like say 10 stories, 10 user stories. Okay, it's difficult right on the screen. Okay, so the use case has got like 10 user stories. So in this sprint, we want to deliver this 10 user stories. So we define, design, analyze, develop, QA, test, review, and customer test. We do this for all the 10 user stories, and for the one by the end of the sprint, we're going to release this to customer. And if everything is fine, we're going to put in production. Okay, that's how this is done in agile sprints. Okay, now what happens? Okay, in different scenarios, we'll try to understand that. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, in a hybrid way is when the use case is a large use case wherein you need like 2-3 iterations. Okay. So now what happens is after iteration one, the iteration two is dependent on iteration one. Then iteration three is on iteration two. So we'll run the entire agile sprint as shown over here for 2 to 4 weeks, whichever sprint duration. We do sprint one, sprint two, sprint three, or call it iteration one, iteration two, iteration three, and then give the output to the customer because this is a large use case. Value to the customer is recognized only at the end of use case, but you want to kind of do the inspection, adaptation, and then transparency, all these scrum pillars. You want to try it out on all each iteration. So that's where we are becoming more agile, right? We want to get faster feedback, right? We want to follow the empirical process. So in hybrid, we'll do it like this because based on the use case size. Okay, now next one. So again, in hybrid thing, you've got product owner who works very closely, and he prioritizes the use case and he breaks down use case in smaller parts and then lets us know what can be delivered faster. Okay, there's another way of on-demand scheduling for agile. It's called as Kanban. So Kanban is a methodology. It's a Japanese term for signboard. Okay, it was used by Toyota in car manufacturing. For software, we adopted by using two important principles from Kanban. Okay, one is limiting the working process. One is the pull system. Limiting a working progress means you will take work only equal to the number of people you have who can work immediately. Like for example, you see in development, we see here 2 people and we just have one story right now. So one person still free. So it's visual and so we know where are the gaps. So we'll give this person one more thing to work on. Now then after that, there's one more thing called as testing. It's got one person. So once something is developed over login, we'll push it to the testing part. So that's called on-demand scheduling, like a rolling wave planning, right? So in Agile, we used to call Kanban board. It's called on-demand scheduling to plan about your releases. Okay. Right. So outputs of defining sequence activities is a list of activities we have. We've got active activities, attributes, the details with respect to activities, change requests, updates to activity list, active attributes, milestone list, assumption logs, and risk register. So these are the outputs from this. Okay. So finally, for important points to remember for your PMP examination is like decomposition of work packages to define the activities. Okay. So when you decompose work packages, it's for and getting activities for schedule management. In Agile, activities updated for each and every iteration. For PMP examination, consider only 1 point estimate for network diagrams. So remember that. Okay, you don't take 3 points. We'll talk about that a little later in the estimating video. Again, leads and lags help you speed up the delay of activities, but cannot actually replace the flow. It can only go forward and backward. It doesn't actually impact the entire, change the entire flow. Okay. Remember these terms for our PMP examination. Okay. In the next video, I'll be talking to you about how do we do estimating for the project. Okay. Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Please do like, share, and subscribe my channel. Please do leave comments if you need more videos. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.